Hey there, welcome back to Let's Unpack with Sis, the podcast. I'm Sasha, the older sister.
And I'm Sierra, the lil sis. Did you know that used to be my email when we first got email is lilsis@yahoo.com.
Wait, yes, I think I did, and I was Lemon Sparkle. That was my Lemon Sparkle. I don't even remember the numbers, but some sort of weird numbers at Hotmail.
Well, we were pretty cool, but I won't say lil sis anymore. I'll say little. My third graders that Coloradans do have an accent, and
Yeah.
we don't pronounce T's. So I was like,
Mm.
say kitten. And they're all like, kitten. And I was like, no, like say it like you're talking. And they're like, kitten. And I said, see? But how was your week?
Oh, it was okay over here. We were just a little bit sad here because, for those of you who don't know, my husband's in the military and he's been deployed for quite a long time. And he should have been coming home. It's been a little bit delayed. So, but we're good. He's coming home. So, all is well. How's yours? First week back at school, huh?
First week back at school, and that hustle life is hitting hard. We talked about that in the last episode, and I am feeling it today on this Friday night at 11 o'clock at that night, recording a podcast with my sister.
Yeah, this is not our usual. So background looks a little bit like a scary movie back here.
The house
Someone
was
might
scary
like,
to me.
yeah, for sure. And I am trying out these little tequila palomas that I got at Trader Joe's, and the cute little girl checking me out when she rung me up, she's like, "Oh my gosh, have you tried these? These are so strong." And I was like, no. And she proceeded to tell me this whole story about how her and her friends like tried to take them as chasers. I was like, well, it says right here on label it's a cocktail. But anyway. And then little guy came over and started bagging it. And he's like, oh my gosh, have you tried these? They're so strong. And so now I'm like very intrigued to see if they're very strong. So I'm trying it here with you.
Try here. Let me know.
No, not so strong. But mine has been sitting on ice for some time, so it might be a little bit watered down, but actually delicious. So
Well, we'll see how you feel at the end of the episode after you've been sipping on it.
definitely. All right, let's get into today's episode.
So today we're talking about marriage, the messy, the real kind. Last week we talked a lot about how we compare ourselves to Instagram, and we are not comparing ourselves to Instagram today. We are talking about our version and the real version where there's over talking, there's shutting down, um, just because no one knows where the charger is.
Yeah, Colt took my charger on deployment, so that was a whole other thing.
That's funny. So there's three.
Uh,
We're going to talk about three terms tonight: the fixer, the feeler, and the fighter. So, what are you thinking? What are you?
I'm the feeler. I definitely need to take time to process. I would say I kind of like shut down, need space, and internalize, try and figure out like, am I justified in feeling the way that I feel? And then I have to figure out how to explain all that without sounding like a wounded poet or a Taylor Swift song. So,
Well, I did ask Kyle what he thought I was. I read him all three. I said, "Do you think I'm the feeler, the fixer, or the fighter?" He said he felt like I was more the feeler and the fixer. Um,
and you are.
I would say I'm more the fixer.
Mm.
Well, no, I wouldn't say I am. I am the fixer. That is my first instinct. I want to fix everything. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it. Like we are fighting until the dishwasher's done, and then we're fine, and we're both gonna unload the dishes together. Nobody's got time for that.
Yeah. So, what do each of those roles look like?
Okay, so the feeler. Well, let's look at the feeler. The leads with emotion and needs to be understood. And since that's the one that you said that you felt like you were, does that define it when you think feeler?
Yeah, I think initially when I was looking at all of them, and I felt like the feeler didn't quite land. But then as I was reading about needing to be understood, then that really resonated with me. I think a lot of the crux of the arguments that we have is me not feeling heard or understood. And I think like deeply understood, right? Like
Mhm.
because I am my most vulnerable in my marriage and with my husband. And so feeling like he doesn't understand me just feels like a slap in the face, Like, and so I deeply need him to understand me. Uh,
Does that also mean that
so
he has to agree with you? Like, when you're with a healer, like, to feel understood, do they have to agree?
I no, I don't think so because there's certainly a lot that we don't agree on. And and that's fine, and that's something I've really had to come to terms with, especially with, like, parenting and stuff, like, I've told you this many times, like, we are just different, and that is okay,
Mm,
like me and Cole, I'm talking about, like, us parenting, like, it is different, and as much as I want us to be on the same page, I feel like morals, values-wise, and, like, how we handle most situations totally are the same, but there is, I think, in every relationship, like, one is, like, your kid is gonna go to that one because they know that they're gonna get what they want or whatever, like,
mhm.
I'm gonna ask dad because dad will for sure take me to wherever, so I think that, yes, I need to be understood, but no, we don't necessarily need to agree. But I do, yeah, I think a lot of times, like, I feel like I've already had the conversation in my head. And so when I bring it up to you, like, you should already know, like, I've already like broken down the whole thing and created a whole 5 point, PowerPoint on how I feel and why I feel that way. And why aren't you on board?
Yeah.
You haven't come along for the ride? I'm confused.
You didn't see my PowerPoint? I put it on, it was what we went to sleep to last night.
Like, I classically will be like come out mid conversation in my head to Cole and then be frustrated with him that he's not up to speed with this whole plan I've come up with in my head because like why wouldn't you know that?
I do that too.
Yeah,
Sometimes I'm like, "Did I say
so
this already?" 'Cause I put it in my head a few times.
yeah. And then so the fixer jumps to solutions and wants peace and control, and you feel like you resonate with that.
Yes. Um, yeah, you come to me with a problem, I wanna fix it, and I don't wanna spend a ton of time on it, and then I just want to have peace and have fun and be happy and move on. We don't have time. But I think it causes some issues, like, I think that a lot of people, when they're venting, they want to vent, um, and so I think Kyle and I do it to each other. Like, when I wanna vent, he wants to fix. When he wants to vent, I want to fix because we just want to see each other at peace, um, and we're gonna get to the quickest solution of it, but yeah, it's not just in my marriage, in everything that I do. I Someone comes to me with something, I'm like, "Let's fix this. We're coming." But a lot of the time too is that I come with like, it says jump to solutions, but, like, if we're talking about something that's bothering me, if I come to a conversation needing to be like, something to be fixed, I come with a solution. I don't just say, "This is driving me nuts. I'm getting mad." I'll be like, "Okay, this is not working. Let's do this instead."
And what if they don't agree with you?
Well, then they're wrong.
Yeah,
No,
I thought
I
you'd
think
say
that that
that.
was probably more my perspective early in life, but I am learning a lot, and, working with kids, you're humbled a lot that your solution might not work, but also just growing up, maybe I'm a grown up, I don't know, but I just feel like, um as long as you have a solution and it's practical and I can like play it out in my head, then I will take your suggestion. I'm always open for things. I think that goes back to like why one of the conversations we've had about starting this podcast and my idea with other like communication with other people is I want to learn from you. I'm never so stuck in my own situation that I can't be not that I'm like easily convinced, but I can hear you out and I want to be educated and but I will come to you fixing what you just said if
Yeah.
it's not what I think is practical. But
Mhm.
if I can like see it play out in my brain of like, yeah, that could work too, then absolutely.
Yeah, I think in my friendships, I am a fixer because I think it's easier for me, to see something without all the emotion. Like, I'm much more clear when I'm not having to like break down how I feel about an interaction or how I feel about a whole situation. If I can remove the feelings from it, and then I'm like, oh, easy day, I could tell you how to fix that in a second, which is also, not the best thing in a friendship. Like, and I think we've talked about this before too, like or something I'm learning to do is to be like, I need to just be heard right now. Like,
Mhm.
I don't need a solution. I just want to say my piece or think through this out loud. And I don't need you to say anything because I do get my feelings hurt when I go to Cole and want to, break down a situation or how I'm feeling about something. And he immediately is like, well, blah, 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 solution. And I'm like, I don't need that right now.
Well, I definitely learned my fixer skills from mom, and it drove me nuts. So now as I
Yeah.
get older, like I reflect on that because I remember in high school, I said, "Mom, basketball sucks," or complain about something. She goes, "Well, quit." And that like hurt my feelings because I was like,
Yeah.
well, clearly that's not a solution that's practical. And two, like I just wanted you to listen and be like, yeah, babe, that sucks. Um, but then as I got older, I can remember a conversation in college when mom was like, okay, do you want me to help you, or do you just want me to listen? And that
Hmm.
like was a turning point for me. And I was like, I just want you to listen because we
Yeah.
would like argue. I would get mad at her because I
Hmm.
wasn't getting out what I needed.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah,
Wait, so sports wise now with your kids, if they want to quit a sport, what are you going to
say no.
do?
Well, I didn't want to quit. That's the thing. But
Mm-hmm.
when they're venting about it, I'm gonna fix it. Say, do you want me to email the coach? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not gonna be that person yet. But yeah. Okay, so the final one is fighter. And I don't like this word because I
Hmm.
call fights fights. They are passionate conversations.
Right.
You feel the passion. But this one is defined as escalates to resolve and hates avoidance. Now, I like this one. I can be this one sometimes because I hate avoiding something. Like
Mm-hmm.
let's get it out. If something's bothering me, like right now, one of my pet peeves is I hate dishes in the right side of the sink because then you don't have a free flow to water. And I would rather them be on the counter on the left
Hmm.
than on the right side of the sink. And it's just, I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to be passive aggressive. I'm not going to like throw something in the sink or take them out and throw them. I'm going to say, stop doing this, please. But so I wouldn't call it a fighter. I'm just very passionate about the right side of the sink being clear.
Right. When I think about fighter and the escalates to resolve, I see that as like kind of like poking the bear. Like, I'm gonna keep bugging you over and over and over again and not giving you your time and your space and your peace to also process. I think when Cole and I have arguments or disagreements, then he is just kind of quiet and it feels like a shutdown.
Mm,
And sometimes I am shutting down as well. So then it's like, who's gonna bridge that gap,
yeah.
you know? Um, but I think that there is, you know, at least I have felt like Cole will be quiet and seem like he's just like kind of shutting down, but he really is like mulling it over. He doesn't want to say something that he doesn't want
Yeah.
to, is going to regret or something like that. Um, and a lot of times he just is, we're on the same team. He's just kind of taking it to heart and then going to make the change, hopefully, if needed, or he's going to find a way to tell me I need to make the change
Yeah.
gently later.
Well, and when I think fighter, I think about a conversation I had with my mother-in-law early in my marriage, and, I can't remember the exact conversation, but I remember the aftermath of it, but she said something about fighting, and I said, "Yeah, Kyle and I never fight." And she was like, "Well, that's great, but, like, fighting's good." And, like, healthy marriages, you fight in your marriage. And I kinda, like, blew it off or whatever, but I don't think of fighting as fighting. I think of it as passionate conversations, and that's kind of how Kyle and I communicate is, we don't yell at it. I don't consider it yelling. We don't say mean things to each other, and that's what I feel like fighting is. Fighting is like in my perspective, fighting is like saying, "I hate you," and slamming the door and saying, "You're not my mom," or, like, that's fighting, but when you're, like, trying to find a solution together and be passionate about whatever is bothering you, and so she just said she should have said, "Couples, it's healthy to have passionate conversations."
Yeah,
But I
it's
do agree, I do think that there is some fighting that is needed, but it's because you care and it's not fighting, but
right. And if you're on the same team, then it is just like continually trying to grow and change and trying to help each other. And you're just two people cohabitating, trying to raise small people. You're doing the best you can.
mm.
So I think it's normal to have those feelings. I
Do you
think
ever switch
every,
those feelings for you? Like, can you be the fighter and the fixer and the feeler?
sure, I think I have all of it inside of me. Definitely, depending on the situation.
I think
I'm
that
probably leaning more towards feeler though
yeah.
now. And I do think it's different of like how you bring up an argument versus how you receive an argument, and you can be kind of different in each of those, right? Like, are your feelings hurt or did you hurt somebody else's feelings? So you might show up differently in different situations.
It was funny on our poll on, Instagram, a lot of people say that their fights are mostly communication, like, they
Hmm.
lack that the most.
I think too, when Cole and I were talking about communication, expectations, and parenting for the top three things of people arguing about, um, when I think now about communication, I do feel like I say a lot to Cole. I'm like, it's not what you said, it's how you said it to me. And so that's when I think I can get a little defensive or like my feelings hurt because it's, you know, he could just be saying something like pretty vanilla, and I get upset because I'm like, I don't like the way you're talking to me.
Kyle and I have had that conversation too. It's just I think
Yeah.
it's normal, like, and I think that that's with anybody, but I think you're more vulnerable. Like, it's so easy to go to work or have conversations with your friends and, like, the way they said something, but it's so much easier to give them the benefit of the doubt, like, that
Hmm.
they didn't say it that way, or they probably didn't mean it, or, like, digesting things, in a different way, but with our spouses, I feel like we're so quick to be like, "You're so mean," or, like,
Hmm.
"Say it that way, that wasn't sensitive," and I have had a conversation with Kyle like that recently just because sometimes the kids can't tell that he's joking because he's so stoic, and I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
like, add some." And it's funny, he was told that he needs to, like, be more excited with Apollo because he's just like one level of voice, and
Hmm.
dogs need to know that you're excited, that's like, they need the baby talk.
Yeah.
That's not his thing. And so it's funny with the kids but more with me, I'm like, "Well, okay, I get what you were trying to say, but your tone, like, you're not smiling when you're saying it."
Yeah. But that's what I love about him, like, his delivery is, you really gotta be paying attention and, like, in sync with him to, like, get what he's saying, which I think is also really cool,
There was
but would probably be hard in your marriage sometimes.
Well, it was funny what this girl said it really, really well. We were it was another officer. Some officer had said to her, like, "He's a jerk, isn't he?" Or, "He's,
Mhm.
like, really serious." I don't even know what the direct words were, but she was like, "No, you're just not in with him yet." And I was like, that's it, like, you see a different side of him. I mean, he's
Yeah.
nice to everyone, but, like,
Yeah.
the the really good side, he's very protective of that.
Yeah, it is funny though, because he'll give like a real zinger, but like completely like monotone. He won't be looking at you, and then he'll like turn around and look at you and give you a little smile, and you're like, "Yep." So you have to be paying attention.
Yes, you do have to be paying attention. My favorite thing is he says some pretty raunchy things, but he'll catch himself before he says it, and he'll just laugh at himself. And I'm like,
Yeah,
"Okay, now I
yeah.
have to know." And then when he says it, I'm like, "Oh my god." But that's what I love.
All right, read off the cis mail. What did our little IG follower have to
It's a
say?
it's a good one. Okay. My husband completely shuts down when we argue. I end up doing all the talking, all the feeling, and then feeling like the crazy one. How do I get him to engage without turning it into a lecture? What do you think?
Oh, oh girl, same here. I mean, I think like I've already said, I think just kind of like just wait a minute, feel out your thoughts, proceed with caution. Is this really something worth bringing up? And then also like check in like I think a lot of this is like are you in a good healthy safe marriage, right? Like a lot of these are like pretty mundane like arguments that are mostly about our egos or like our feelings or our expectations or our communication, not about like big things, right? Um, and so I think sometimes, like I said, the silence, at least in my situation, is just him thinking, processing, like trying to figure it out. And then a lot of times I think um, people will be silent when they're trying to think. Like you put me on the spot, like
Mhm,
I might say something I regret, or I might, not have the opportunity to think through everything. So the silence may not necessarily be tuning out, but only you will know that, right? Like,
mhm.
and is this a pattern in your marriage? But
But
seeing if maybe it's them thinking and processing.
but if this is like I mean, she says that he said I'm reading this, like, very particularly, that he shuts down, meaning, like, it
Yeah.
happens multiple times, right?
Mm,
So then
mhm,
I kinda challenge her to, like, say what you need to say.
mhm,
Like, for me, I'm a talker, and I will say the same thing over and over again in different ways, and like, in my head, I'm like, "Shut up." Like, "You've said it."
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but say what you need to say, and then is he responding to it later? Like, is he fixing it later? Are you upset because let's just use a very mundane like, um, they chose to
true.
play video games when you wanted quality time, right?
Yeah, yeah,
The next night or a couple nights later, were they very intentional about putting the video games and came and sat with you instead or said, "Hey, let's watch a movie,"
mhm,
without bringing back up the fight that you just had? Do they just act? Because
mhm,
in my personal relationship, that's how it goes. Like, I will voice something, and then 2 days later or the next time that the situation comes up, it's just fixed.
mhm,
So, for me, maybe they're just processing. Maybe they're just listening and maybe they agree, like, "Oh, yeah, I am doing that. How am I gonna fix this in the future?" And they're just planning it out.
yeah, and I'd also be interested for this person, looking at maybe their in-laws and like how they communicate, like their communication styles, and see because that's what your husband grew up in and how they kind of learned to communicate. So if you're looking at your in-laws and like they don't ever really talk to each other, then that might just be the way that he's going to communicate, and
Mm.
so might be worth looking into.
Well, and if you have a good relationship with your in-laws, I think we brought up before, in our last episode of, like, not talking ill of your relationship, but I think that
Mhm,
I mean, your mother-in-law, if you have a good relationship with them and he has a good relationship with them, might have advice or like, "Yeah, he used to do that with me too."
mhm,
Um, I don't know. It's worth exploring, but I don't think that you should feel discouraged. And also, just bring it up. The other night, I was telling Kyle, we weren't arguing or anything, but we were talking, and he like wasn't on his phone. He wasn't doing anything. The TV wasn't even on. And I was like, could you respond? And he goes, okay. I was like, "Okay, thanks." And then I just kept talking, like, check in real quick, just, like, say something so I know you're still there.
Yeah. Right, because we all dissociate at the end of a long, overstimulating day.
We do, though.
So are you listening or not? Yeah, that's a good check-in.
Yeah. Did you hear me? Repeat the last 2 words I just said. That's what I do in the classroom. What did I just say? But,
Yeah.
yeah. Alright, well, so then let's lead that into our last segment of let's reframe some thinking that we have maybe embedded in us from the way that we grew up, the way we've seen relationships. Um, let's offer some shifts in our mindset that maybe will help us moving forward.
Okay.
So let's start.
Uh,
Conflict doesn't have to be a contest. It can be a classroom. That sounds cheesy, but I think that
who wrote these, nerd?
but really, yeah, I mean, I like the first part of it.
Yeah.
It's it's not a contest of who's right or who's right first. You said that before because
Mhm,
technically whoever forgives first is better off, but
mhm.
is at the end of the day, you're on the same team. So
Yeah.
it's not a fight against each other, it's a fight against the problem.
It's funny that you say that too, because I do think that along with um, Cole just kind of like processing like whatever, he is like way quick to forgive and just like move on. And he does like make changes like pretty quickly. So, really, like you said, he probably did win because he probably moved on. And I'm laying in bed festering over it. And he sleeps great because he's like, we're good.
Do you want I think that this is weird. Okay, hear me out.
Uh-huh.
They say you marry your father, but I
Mhm.
think we married our sister. Because Cole and I are so similar in that of like, "Hey, we have a plan, like, it'll be better tomorrow, we'll work on it, okay, good night." And
It's so funny because you did say something earlier, and I was like, "Oh, because me" and you said physical touch and quality time are really close to each other, and you and Cole are both acts of service for your love languages, which is so funny.
every time you say something, I'm like, that's me in the relationship." But then it's funny because like, Kyle holds grudges and, like, you burn something with him, you're done.
Mhm,
And, like, he doesn't necessarily come from the feels, but he's got
mhm,
that soft side to him, so anyways.
mhm. Yeah, Cole can we are tired here.
Yes.
Um, Kyle and I have actually a lot in common, and especially around our demeanors and, personalities, I think.
I think we need to talk about eventually, not tonight, about your guys's first not first, but your, like, defining moment of
Yeah, we'll unpack
loving
that.
each other. Yeah, we need to unpack that one because that is one of my favorite stories. And Kyle
I
still
know,
has
me
the
too.
scar on his head, and now this sounds crazy, if you're, still listening to us, it's not that crazy,
Yeah,
but it's
watching his little head bounce like a watermelon off the pavement.
we'll just say that Kyle
Poor
had an
guy.
accident, and Sasha came to the rescue, and they are forever bonded over it.
We are, it's true. Okay, with that, another mindset shift. Your partner isn't the enemy, the dynamic is. Again, I think we've covered this thoroughly, but like you're on the same team, right? Like, and so there are situations like I talked about you and I being a rubber band and like growing and coming back together and stuff like that. And to some degree, that happens in your marriage as well, especially the longer that you're married, you're going to go through a lot of things together.
Yeah.
Um, so if you're in it for the long haul, you're committed to that, then yeah, there's going to be times when the dynamics are changing and you're just going to have to address it.
Well, and I like this, like they say, the dynamic is and your partner. Like I like that part of it because I'm reading this book called How to Be a Good Listener,
Mm.
and they just showed this conversation as an example in it of we've talked about this all night of someone is venting and the person is responding with solutions.
Mhm.
And, like, it reminded me of a typical me and mom conversation in some of those situations. Um, and both were not like, they would come back with a vent, and so the fixer would fix that, and then they would come back with a vent. So neither one, it was not an effective, and it wasn't even like they like, the dynamic of it was like they weren't even in the same room with each other. They, like, weren't
Oh.
even listening. They had that glossed look over. Um, and so I think that sometimes it's not even it's just, like, the moment. Like, you just need to go
Mm.
to a different room,
Mhm.
change your environment, and try and get back on, I don't know, the point. But I think that leads into this one. The point isn't to avoid fights, it's to grow through them. That's a mindset.
Oh, for sure, because I think avoiding the fights is where the resentment grows, right? Like, if you can't and that's what what your mother-in-law had
I was
kind
gonna
of
bring that up
referenced, I
too.
think, as well. Yeah, like, if you can't fight about it and like we've said all night, fighting is a strong word, but if you can't talk it out, if you can't air your grievances in your marriage, like, you are just gonna be pulled under by it.
Yeah. Eh, yeah. I was gonna bring it back to my mother-in-law too, that, like, fighting is good because you're talking through these things and you're growing through these things together, and I think when I said, "We never fight," that's what it sounded like to her, that we just, like, I
Mhm.
avoid it, I don't wanna, like, cause problems. It's not that, it's that they're passionate conversations. That would be, like, the quote of this
Mm.
episode. Alright, do you got one more mindset?
One more mindset. Marriage isn't 50-50. It's 100 on different days, which I feel like, yes, I get the sentiment. Like, you're both putting in 100%. And but it probably is not both people are showing up 100% at the same time. Like,
I think of it
uh,
more of, like, total together 100. I don't like the 100,
yeah,
100. It's like
yeah.
total together, we are 100, and some days I have 50 and some days he just comes back in with the other 50, you know? And
Mhm,
some days he's only got 5 and I'm coming in with that 95, you know?
mhm,
I think it's marriage is 100. And
mhm.
you're both giving everything you have. Sometimes it could be 200, right? Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you're both in your prime and you're feeling good and you're at good places. Um, but sometimes you gotta make up for the other.
Yeah, I think definitely, probably since about 2019 for Cole and I.
Mhm,
So, like, right before we started having kids, um, there has been a drastic, like, swing of, like, who's giving, like, a majority of the effort and who can only put in a little bit, and that's just because of, like, where we've been with moving and like having to depend on each other with like like I've gone through many fluxes in careers and gone through periods of staying home with kids and working full time and things like that. And um, when I was in school, he had to pick up a lot of the slack. And it's funny because, like, when we were in Whitby and it was just the 2 of us, like, I did, like, everything. I paid all of our bills. Cole didn't know a single password. He didn't pay any bills, like, like, everything went into our joint account, and I managed all the money, like, everything. And he just went to work, essentially, like, and, whatever. And then, as things kind of changed, like he kind of picked up more and more responsibility as I worked more or whatever. And then this, when I was in school, was like the biggest shift the
mhm,
other way.
yeah,
Like, I was in school, I had just had my second and like had to leave her at 6 weeks and go back to clinical and just it was just wild. And he was still working full time, but had a much more flexible job and was able to help a lot more, but just, like, really having to let go, like, I wasn't doing the grocery shopping, and so I didn't get to complain about what he came home with, you know? I'm like, "I wouldn't have bought that. This is not what I would have cooked for dinner," like, any of that stuff, but, like, he was really stepping up,
yeah, yeah.
and I didn't have any room to like, he was cooking for me, I didn't get to say that I didn't like it. or that I wouldn't choose it or, whatever. And he also had the flexibility to be the one that would call in when the kids were sick because I could not. So he was giving like 110.
So cool. Good job.
Yeah.
Go team, both of you. I think that that's, like, really awesome and a good like, it's a great example of how one steps up for the other. But I also think it's, like, maturing. Like, when Kyle and I got married, we just fell into our roles, like, we just had something because it was similar, like, the books, the things, like, I was already doing it for myself, so I just, like, took it upon both of us. And then you have kids and work, and, like, we both went through serious career changes, and one just picked up different roles, like, they just have shifted. And I remember when we bought this house, I had done all the buying of the houses of the other 2, and
Mm,
Deb, like, just would be like, "Okay, I need this paperwork, go get it for me," but I would do all of it. And then when we were buying this one, we had 2 kids, and I, like, just said, "I need help with this one," and he stepped up, and I think that that is it's not that he was stepped down, it's just that I just did it, and when roles need to change, you just gotta communicate about it. But I think that that's where that, like, 100, 200 comes in, like, but you have to be able
mhm,
to voice it. You can't complain about 20/80 if you're not voicing what you need, and I think a lot of people struggle with communication, so,
mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
at least according to Instagram.
No, but I see it, like, with my friends too. I think, like, their communication sometimes, um, is difficult, because we're all different. We're all raised differently and, like, learned how to communicate differently, and so I think that's something that I work on raising my kids is trying to teach them how to use their words
Yeah.
to say my feelings are hurt and to immediately, like, go into, like, some sort of conflict resolution. Um, so we'll see how that plays out in about 15 years.
Right. Well, that's a good segue into our next week's episode because we will be talking about friendships and when we keep them, put the effort in, when we outgrow them. Um, and, but I think that what you were saying was that the communication that you have in your relationship is different, but you can also see how it carries over into your relationships and or into your friendships or other relationships. And I feel like those are much more volatile, um, and harder to communicate in. I feel like friendships are harder to communicate your own needs. Like they're really easy to have, but like if someone is not, I don't know, if you disagree with something that someone says, it's a lot harder to talk to a friend, to me, than it is to talk to your spouse and be like, "Hey, I didn't like the way you said that."
Mhm.
And so I think that that's
Yeah.
not, I wouldn't say more volatile, but it's just, I don't know. We'll dive into it next week and we'll talk more about it.
Yeah. Well, this was fun chatting about marriage, about being a feeler, a fixer, or a fighter, and learning how to identify with one of those. And maybe you picked up some tips, or maybe you already are a master communicator. So
But you're not,
let us know. Nope.
you're just learning.
Just always learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, send this episode to your partner and say, "This is me," and explain which one you are.
Like this, follow us everywhere.
And we'll talk.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Oh, that's new. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.
See you next week.